today's video, we are going to learn how to make a gathered top using our very own bespoke block. I'm Izzy at Minerva and I'm going to be talking you through step by step how to adjust your own body block to create this really cute little pattern. Our gathered top is going to be a summery little top, and then it's just going to be gathered under the bust, and I'll be showing you how to adapt your darts in order to create this gathered volume rather than the dart. It's a lovely little technique and one that you can apply in many different areas. As ever with this pattern drafting series, you will need your standard pattern drafting tools, which are listed next to me here. The first thing we're going to do is to trace over our body block. So go and grab your block and trace over it, and then come and join me at the table. So for the purpose of this demo, I have got my two body blocks printed off so you can see them clearly in the video. Yours will obviously look different, and that's totally fine. Start off by drawing a line that is 4 centimeters parallel to the waistband. Cut along that line. Next, remove the volume of the dart from that waist panel. Push the two pieces together so that effectively you've closed up the volume of the dart. Next, find the center of your waist dart on this top bit up here and just join that up with the apex. Cut along the line you've just drawn. Next, remove the volume from the top bust dart. Remove that volume and then just rotate the whole of the bodice so that the top dart is closed up and the waist dart is widened. Now effectively what we've done is given volume into this bit here, which is where we wanted it to be. So we've moved all the volume from the fitted top to this area, and that's all we've got. Now on our top we want the gathers to run all the way from the side of the dart here to the centre front, and likewise on the other side. So when we come to annotate our pattern piece, we're actually going to spread the gathers all the way from this side of the dart all the way through to the centre front. Okay, let's annotate our pattern pieces now, starting up at the top of the shoulder up here. Just going to draw in our seam allowance here. Draw in the arm side. Add your seam allowance to the side seam. Now add a seam allowance to the waist so that it can be attached onto the waist panel. Draw in your centre front and your neckline. The first thing we're going to do is grab your ruler and just extend the line of this dart leg to the base of the pattern, and this will become the gathering notch. And this demonstrates where we want the end of our gathers to be. So just annotate that with the word gather. So we know that this amount of volume is just going to be gathered all the way between here and here, and just gather nice and gently up across the whole of that bust front. It's going to continue onto the other side, so just annotate that. And then annotate the rest of your standard pattern annotations. Place on fold, grain line, gather top, bodice top, cut 1 on fold. And now we're going to draw in our annotations for our waist panel. So trace around the pattern piece, giving your seam allowance to the top and to the side only. Everything else, we're not adding a seam allowance onto the waist because we're not attaching it to anything at this point. Place on fold. Grain line should follow the centre front. Gathered top, bodiced waist panel, cut 1 on fold. Brilliant, that's all looking fantastic. I just started to cut up my pattern pieces and then realised we haven't done one critical little point, which is to annotate our notch on the waist panel. So just take this line where the end of the dart was and just add that there at that point onto the waist panel. That is going to match up with this, so that length here should be exactly the same as that length there. Then all of this bulk is going to be reduced to in between there and there. Brilliant. Once you've done that, then do the same process with your bodice back pattern piece by adding the seam allowances to your block. Add a 1.5 centimeter seam allowance to the centre back. Draw in your waist and dart exactly as it is on the block. Add a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance to your side seam and then draw in your arm side exactly as it is. Add a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance to your shoulders and draw in your dart. Draw in your neckline. Grain line follows the line of the centre back. Annotate your pattern piece to say that it is the back bodice we need to cut to, and then add your pattern name. The next thing to do is to cut out your pattern pieces out of your tracing paper and then cut them out of your calico. Brilliant. Right, once we've cut out our front pattern pieces, we're then going to just prepare the gathers along the front. So if we open up the front piece, you can see we've got 2 notches, and we basically want to run 3 lines of gathering stitches within the seam allowance. And they are going to be long stitches at 4.5 or 5mm stitch length. Remember to leave a long thread at one end that you can then use to pull your gathering stitches together. Brilliant. So I've now got 3 rows of stitches all within our seam allowance. They're nice long stitches, and I can just pull the loose end to gather the fabric in between the 2 notches now to create a nice little gather all the way along. Now the width of this gather and the extent that I want to kind of gather it by is dictated by the bottom panel, which we've got here. So this is going to sit like that, and we want the notches here to line up and that to line up at that point. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to flip this over, so right sides are together, and we're just going to line up and pin the side from the side seam to the notch to start off with. And just do the same on the other side over here. Okay, now rightly so, we've got a lot of excess fabric there. Just flip the fabric over and take a hold of your 3 long strands of thread one more time, and just continue to pull on the strands until the width of the fabric on the top is the same as the width of the fabric of the panel. So it's just a bit of sort of trial and error at this point. And once you've got the width correct, I just tend to gather all 3 of those strands and just tie them off in a nice knot so that it doesn't move about as you pin it. So the next thing to do is just to distribute those gathers nice and evenly. Now because we've got 3 layers of stitches, we've got really nice opportunity to get some good even layers gathering here. Some good even gathers. Brilliant. And once you've done that, just pin that in place. As ever when we're sewing this, I'd always recommend to do a basting stitch first across the gathered area so that it just helps the gathers to sit in place and not bunch up too much when you sew your smaller stitch length next. Once you've basted that in place, we can then sew it for real using a 1.5 centimetre seam allowance. You can see the gathers are looking reasonably nice and even at that point, and that's just because we've been really careful about how we sew those together. So change the settings on your machine back to your standard stitch length and off you go. Lovely. Once you've done that, just turn it out so it's nice and flat, and then press the seam allowance down. Next, grab your back pattern pieces and pin and sew your darts in place. If you're not sure how to do this, you can refer back to video 22 where I talk you through in much more detail how to sew a dart. Brilliant. Once those darts have been sewn, you can just press those darts towards the side. Next, with right sides together, place the back pieces over the front and pin the side and shoulder seams and then sew them together. Lovely. Let's go and press those seams open, and then let's go and take a look at it. Okay, so here we go, cute little top with the gathers really nicely centrally located, just giving the volume across the bust in a slightly different way. It's really interesting, isn't it, to see how that technique can be used, and you could obviously put that around wherever you want across the top of the bodice.
So there we go, we have done a little gathered top. That's just shown you how to do gathers in one area and demonstrated the principles of how to manipulate a dart and translate it into gathers. I hope you found that really helpful and your mind is now like reeling with all the fun things that you could do with that, with that little technique. So thank you for joining me today. I've been Izzy at Minerva, and please do like and follow the videos, add your comments, join with the community, and join in the story and the journey of us as we pattern draft together. Don't forget that you can create an online free Minerva account on our website where you can actually upload your photos, and we would love to see your pattern drafting journey there. So please do share your makes online with us. Thank you for joining me today. I'll see you next time.